All right, welcome. This is Dr. CJ Benkert with Puda Vida Wellness, and this is definitely the favorite part of my job. We have another transformational story to share with you. I have Dorin with me here today, and as most of you probably know, I'm very passionate about diabetes, metabolic health, and Dorin agreed to come on today and share his transformation story, but it's a little different because Dorin is a type 1 diabetic. Many of you have heard me talk about adult onset diabetes or type 2 diabetes, and that's what most people are familiar with. Type 2 is it happens with kids now, but basically the pancreas is still functioning and you just need a little bit of help, right? But type 1 is a type of diabetes where the pancreas, for whatever reason, some people are born with it, some people it happens earlier in life, sometimes later in life. We now think that there might be an autoimmune component to it, but for whatever reason, Doran's pancreas or Doran's body looked at his pancreas as a foreign substance and attacked it, and it just kind of stopped working. So I want Doran to have plenty of time to share. His story's phenomenal. It's amazing. We're going to go over, why he came in. So Doran, just, introduce yourself. What was your reason for coming in? What has your experience been like? And yeah, I'd just love for you to share your story with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, my name is Dorin. As Dr. CJ said, I've been type 1 diabetic since I was 10 years old. And I never really struggled with health or weight until I was in my early 30s. And at that point, I really noticed my metabolism slowing down and also a lot of weight gain and more trouble keeping my blood sugars under control. Um, Even though I was on an insulin pump, with all the technology they have, it was still a struggle. Um, and then about 3 years ago, we moved back to California. And at that point, it was just my A1Cs were going up and up and up to the
What were
point where, yeah, right. So, right before I started your program, my latest A1C was an 8.4.
they? Ooh, okay.
Which was, yeah, the highest it had ever been. Prior to that, I'd always been in like the low to mid sevens. Um, but
So still way too high.
yeah, definitely. So, and my goal and working with my endocrinologist has always been to be under seven, um,
Yes.
which I understand is a little bit tougher as a type 1 diabetic, but still, that was the goal.
Yeah.
Um, and really, I've tried multiple different diets. I've tried a lot of different exercise. I used to run a lot and just did not have the energy. I messed up a knee, so it was painful to run anymore. So kind of a lot of compounding things going on. But in January, my husband and I adopted a baby girl,
Yeah.
and really, um,
January, you guys, 2025, right? This was just a few months ago.
yeah, she actually turned 4 months on Sunday.
I Inez,
Ines,
Inez.
yes. Um, and that was my main motivation. I absolutely was not happy being tired all the time. Just getting up, going to work. I was coming home. I was exhausted. I was napping, and I didn't want to continue that because I wanted to come home and have time for my daughter.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
and
mind
so,
sharing your age,
oh, go ahead.
Doran? Do you mind sharing your age?
Oh yeah, I am 36, almost 37.
So just a baby, 36. And do you remember what were the main things that you wanted to work on when we first met? The number one thing was energy.
Yeah, my number one thing was regaining my energy, sleeping better because I was not sleeping well. Um, I had been diagnosed with sleep apnea, and even being on sleep apnea therapy, it was not helping. So I have my BiPAP that just really wasn't helping. Um, so with that as well, losing the weight and getting my diabetes better under control.
Okay,
Because I was told as well that the weight could be a big part of the sleep apnea as well.
for sure.
So yeah, I was mostly just wanting to be able to have that energy and be healthy when I come home to my daughter. Um, Luckily, I found you guys on social media, and the other testimonials I saw, the reviews were great. And so I figured, after all the other diets and exercises and things I've tried, what else did I have to lose?
Yeah.
And I think actually what brought me in was the free trial for the red light therapy.
Hmm.
And then when we started talking about how the new wave program could help with the weight loss, that's really what got me interested.
Yeah.
So, man, I want to say the first week was really hard, just because I was so used to eating whatever I wanted, whenever. And even though I don't think we ate super unhealthy, um, for example, we would usually have HelloFresh for dinners. So portions weren't out of control. My
Hmm.
lunch was like a salad. For breakfast, I was just having like a boiled egg and a protein shake, but it didn't matter. I was still gaining weight. And I think at my peak, I was hit 201, and
Wow.
that was my
That was your wake up call?
can't be over 200
You're
pounds.
like, hell no, this is not happening.
No, watching that BMI climb was,
And how tall
was
tall are you, Dorin?
um, but once after that week, my cravings really went down. Um, so like a lot of things that I do miss a little bit, like the breads, the cheeses, the occasional dessert. I just don't get the cravings for them anymore. Even
Mm,
like I'll see, some cookies out on the counter, and it's not like, ooh, let me just grab one. It's
yeah.
really not even that appealing. So that has
And
made this transition so much easier for me as well. I
yeah.
know, you know, everyone's probably not going to have that same experience. My husband has a major sweet tooth, and he was trying to follow along with the diet, and that's his
But
struggle with the diet
but he didn't
portion.
go but he didn't go through all the steps with us. He was just kind of trying to follow it from afar. And there's a lot of missing
Exactly.
components, right? It's not just
Exactly.
quick example. It's not just about the food.
Yeah.
What's your understanding of what is the main thing that makes the difference with our program? What do you think it was different that made such a difference for you?
I think a lot of it was the support and accountability.
Mm,
Um, I know even with programs like Weight Watchers and things like that, they say that's there, but I don't really feel like that. Like with you and Andrea, it was easy to get support. Whenever I
mhm.
had questions, you were right there to answer them. Um, so I think that made a huge impact.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that made it easy was how quickly I started seeing results. So it just made it that much easier to continue when I knew how well it was working.
You were getting rewarded at every step of the way, right?
Exactly. I think I told you this the first time I came in for a checkup, that after 2 weeks, I was already sleeping better. I had more energy at the end of the day. Um, I hadn't lost a ton of weight in those first 2 weeks, but I was already down, 4 or 5 pounds.
Hmm.
And now, as I'm moving into the maintenance phase, I'm down almost 35 pounds. Um,
35 pounds as of today.
Almost 35 pounds. Yeah.
So you guys, he started February 25th. That's the first body composition analysis that we have on you was February 25th. And then
And
the last time,
actually,
yeah.
that was our first appointment. I didn't actually start the program until March 17th.
Are you are you serious?
Yes. So in just over 2 months, 35 pounds.
Oh my gosh. See, I'm so glad I'm talking to you. I'm going to show your BCA here in a second. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, February 25th. All right. So in less than 3 months, because the last one I have on you is like May 15th. I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, well, in less than 3 months, you know, he's had all these amazing changes, but you didn't actually even start till March 17th.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, but when I started, I was having issues getting my CGMs. And
Oh, that's
so
right. We were waiting
since I
on that.
couldn't, yeah, so I couldn't track my, since I couldn't track my blood sugars on a momentary basis, we decided to wait until I could.
Yeah.
And that was March 17th, the first day for me.
Wow. Okay, so let our listeners and our viewers kind of take them on the little journey of like what were your blood sugars like? How much, how much insulin were you needing? Because you don't make insulin, so you have to get insulin from the outside. And
Yep.
you and I both know, and hopefully our viewers know this as well, is insulin is the top fat storage hormone. It's the top aging hormone. It's the top inflammatory hormone. And I remember when I sat down with you that first visit, you understand insulin a lot better than most people. And my only goal with you is I knew I could never, get you off of insulin. That's
Right.
death for you. It's not like a type 2 diabetic where I can get them off the medication. I knew with you I could never do that. But I knew, and I said to you, would it be great if we could decrease the
Mm.
amount that you need? Because that's a longer life. The less insulin you need, the longer your life, the longer your quality of life, your energy. No wonder you were gaining weight. Well, insulin's a fat storage hormone. It's a
Mm.
miracle that as a type 1 diabetic, you've had the result that you've had with our program because you still do need insulin.
Mm.
So what were your numbers? What was that like going through? And then I want to pop up your body composition chart just to show everybody where you were.
Yeah. So, like I said, my last A1C before I came to you guys was an 8.4.
Okay.
And so I think that kind of averaged out my daily blood sugars in the like 180 to 200 range.
Wow.
And
Okay.
even with, increased visits with my endocrinologist and all, it was improving, but it wasn't drastically better. And now my my fasting blood sugars in the morning are in the low hundreds or 90s.
Almost
My
totally normal.
Yeah, my insulin intake on a daily basis went from like 100 and 120 units to 35 to 45 units
100 to 120 units to
per day.
30 per day, which is a lot,
Yes.
to 30 to 35 units.
Yep.
So basically almost a 75% reduction in insulin needs.
Yes. And
Did you ever think that was possible?
no, not
No.
never in a million years.
Now that you know what you've done, and okay, first of all, do you understand or know how that happened? Because we talked about, the where's my where's my little cell? We talked about, remember the insulin receptor?
Mhm.
So what's your understanding of how is that possible? How does a type 1 diabetic that doesn't make their own insulin used to need 100, 120 units of insulin to keep his blood sugars in a healthy range and not die versus almost a 75% reduction? What changed?
I mean, so one of the big ones, of course, was with the diet. I've cut out a lot of added sugars, a lot of processed foods, a lot of carbohydrates in general, right? And I
Yes,
think that probably halved about my insulin intake.
I
And
agree.
then my basal rate um, is basically all I'm taking now. And that's decreased as well because um, by removing a lot of the toxins and things like that were harming my cell membranes, I'm able to absorb
Mhm.
it better, what is in my system. And so that
Yes,
helps control my blood sugars with a lot less insulin.
yes. So your insulin receptors are working much better now than before. You were insulin resistant. Those receptors
Mhm.
weren't allowing the sugar in the cell. So even though your pancreas wasn't making the insulin, you still were eating carbs and sugars and things that raise the sugar. And even though you were taking insulin in, 2/3 more of what you're needing now, the sugar couldn't get into the cell. So you needed more and more and more to just kind of shove that sugar into the cell because of those insulin receptors.
Yep.
Wow.
And
Okay, go
and
ahead.
actually, I was going to say about, let's see, so mid-April, I had my most recent endocrinology visit, and I wasn't expecting a huge impact because it had only been about a month out of the 3-month range that they measure.
Yeah.
It was down to a 7.5,
Wow.
almost an
It's
entire.
gonna drop lower.
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to my next one will be in July,
Okay.
and I'm looking forward to see what like the full 3-month measurement is with the whole time on the program.
Wow. Okay, so starting, you were 200 plus pounds.
Mhm.
Your energy was awful. Your sleep wasn't good. And your why was a brand new baby girl. You wanted to have energy to be able to work, come home, and have quality time with your baby girl and have the
Yeah.
energy. So let me share my screen. I want to show everybody uh, your numbers. Let's do the entire screen. Okay. So we use a health and wellness app. All of our members that go through our program have access to a health and wellness app called Body Sight, where we actually track everybody's numbers and you enter in your weight. So, okay, you're right. So 191. So let's take a look at the first. So this is the first body composition analysis that we did.
Mhm.
And so on our scale, February 25th, you were 194. What were you at home?
That is a great question. I actually the measurement right before I went to you guys was actually at the doctor's office, and that was where it
Okay.
said 201.
So, okay. So,
Yep.
somewhere between 194 and 200 approximately. So close to 200. Your goal at that time was 170. You wanted to keep the weight off. You wanted to improve your hemoglobin A1C, like we talked about, your blood sugar, um, type 1 diabetic. Look at your metabolic age when you started 77 years old.
Yeah.
Talked about we're going to get you into fat burning, reduce the body fat, increase healthy cellular water. So this was the end of February, but you didn't actually start till March 17th.
Mhm.
So this is the most recent one. Let's see. This is the most recent one I have. And you're actually low. I saw your weight today. You're actually lower today. So this was just about a week ago.
Mhm.
So basically less than 2 months on the program. And we went from being 77 years old metabolically down to 51. I don't know of another program on the planet where you can be 20 years younger inside in less than 2 months.
Right.
And your ultimate goal originally was 170. Here you're 173. Your water is up, which means your cells are healthier. The insulin receptors are working. Good, healthy water and nutrients are going into the cell. Waste products and toxins are coming out. The water is a direct indication of toxicity levels, cellular health. So that's amazing. 3% up. Body fat's down. It was in the red originally. Let's see,
Mhm.
what were you? Yeah, you were in the red, 32%. And then we got you down to 25. So that was a week ago, right? About a week ago.
Yep.
And then I just saw your last weight entering today, 167. So are you still in, you're not in fat loss, you're in the last month, the maintenance phase, right?
I started maintenance phase on Monday, this Monday.
Okay. So
No, last Monday. I'm sorry, a week ago.
okay, okay. So what's your goal now? Is it metabolic age? I'll tell you what my goal for you is, but I want to know what your goal is.
I
What's
mean,
your
my
goal?
my main goal now is, well, I want to hit my stretch target, which is 160. But
Okay.
on top of that, mine is really being able to continue the program in a like stable fashion, kind of reintroducing and being able to maintain my health and energy levels, and
Hmm.
keep my blood sugar under control long term, not just with all the foods cut out.
Right. And you know that as we go on the journey and we go more into wellness care, that there'll be times when we can have a little more flexibility with your food and with your diet. Because I don't want you to feel like you can't ever have a dessert again, because you can. In fact, we're going to want to bring in, on purpose when it's time, some carbs, cycling some carbs in, healthy carbs. But I think it's amazing that you're still dedicated, that you're keeping the carbs low now, but definitely we'll go over, what that looks like later to bring those
Right.
in. So what is your plan, from here on out? Now that you know what you know and your body has responded like this, you have a much more, not just a powerful why, but you have a deeper understanding of what this means for you and your life. So how do you plan on using these tools now that you've had such an amazing result?
I mean, 100%. Um, I want to continue eating cleaner. I
Yeah.
think it's amazing to me looking at even a lot of the things that we consider health foods, how many random chemicals, how much processed things go into them, and not having those has made me feel so much better that
Mm.
100% I want to continue eating cleaner, eating healthier foods that aren't just advertising gimmicks.
Yeah, like gluten-free, fat-free, organic,
Right, right, exactly.
heart
And
healthy, heart healthy oatmeal. How about that?
I think, and one of the other big ones is the intermittent fasting. I think that's had a huge impact on helping curb my appetite too, surprisingly. Um, because I used to, eat in the morning and then I was just hungry all day long.
Yeah, you were a sugar burner.
Yeah,
You were stuck in sugar burning and fat storage.
yeah. So
What
now
are you,
with the inter
what are you now?
I am
If
I
you're not
can
a sugar burner anymore, what are you now?
fat burner.
Yes. Yes, you're fat adaptive. You're a fat burner.
Yeah. I mean, so those are two of the biggest things that I definitely am excited to take away and continue well beyond, the end of maintenance phase.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the other things that we talked about the other day is the artificial sweeteners. Like, especially, for me, anything you want to look at that's sugar free or light sugar or diet, it's all artificial sweeteners that are just
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Neurotoxins, obesogens.
Yeah, and most of them don't even taste good.
Um,
So, I mean, I think that's another big one. I'm definitely purging the cupboards of all the Splenda and diet stuff with sucralose and all of that. So,
NutraSweet, aspartame, sucralose.
yep.
And then look what an opportunity you have to be an example and a light for your husband, for your daughter,
Mhm.
because your life and your health and how you care for your body and love your body is a shining example to them, showing them how to take care of their bodies. And when you plant seeds with kids, like they don't forget. I'm standing here today at 62 years old because my mom planted seeds with me when I was a little girl. Sugar is the devil, sugar is bad for you. I wasn't allowed to go to McDonald's. Now, I definitely bucked up against that, as a teenager and a young adult when I finally could do what I wanted to do. And I went out and went crazy because my mom was so restrictive with me,
Mhm.
eating all kinds of sugar and junk. And and I suffered, because of it. I lost my appendix in college because I was just free for the first time, eating whatever I wanted to eat. But I went back to the seeds that she planted with me. And as I got older and wasn't feeling that well, I just knew, my body could heal. I wasn't giving my body what it needed. And I knew it had to do with my metabolism. So
Yeah.
the hardest part was the first week or two. What would you say to somebody thinking about joining the program, turning their life around? What would you say to them?
Uh, don't even think twice. I can't even express like I went to, I went in with low expectations because I've really never had good luck, and I have been so absolutely blown away. I would say if you're even thinking about it, go meet you, talk to you, find out, what you recommend for each individual's body because like you said, I'm a very unique case for you and I have been so impressed with you and with Andrea and the results. I can't say enough good things.
Yay.
I mean, I'm almost back to my college weight. And,
Oh, wow.
and even just, like my biggest part, like I said, was for my own health and for my daughter. But
Yeah.
definitely, fitting in clothes I haven't fit in years feels great.
Yeah.
Um, I'm to the point where I have to get a new belt because it doesn't go small enough.
Oh my
um,
goodness, Dorin.
so like those aren't things I was necessarily looking for, but they're also huge encouragement to keep going.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of that affirmation that I wasn't even looking for.
Yeah. And there's no reason why we can't get you into your 30s metabolically. That's very realistic. That's very practical. Because when you first came in, your body was aging at an accelerated rate. I mean, come on, 36 years old, 77, you're, more than double your actual age. And now we've taken 20 years off. We've reversed 20 years of that aging process. Let's get you back into your 30s. I mean, hell, 20s. That's very doable. It took me about a year to get for myself to get into my 20s. I started off in my 60s.
Mhm,
12 years ago, metabolically. I was 49 and I got it. I think I was 35 after my first, 3-month program. And it took
mhm,
me about a year to slowly just kind of squeak it down to where I
mhm.
was able to get, teens sometimes when I'm really, really good. But, most days, 20s, every once in a while, I might creep up into 30s. And that's kind of like my hard stop, like you're 200. My hard stop is getting into my 30s at 62 years old. That's what a perfectionist I am because I know I have people like you that are looking for help and I have to be an example. I have to live it to lead it. You're not going
Mhm,
to listen to somebody sitting across from you that, you know, isn't living it, isn't an example of,
yeah,
what she's telling you works. So, um, I just want to thank you. I know this is, uh, important time for you that you took the time to, meet with me. Um, I want to continue to support you for as long as you want to be supported. I hope you know that.
mhm,
I've got, you know, um, a long-term vision for every single one of my patients. I want you healthy long term. I don't
yes,
care that you lost the weight. That's great. I care about how healthy are your cells. What's your energy like?
mhm,
What's the quality of your life? And you and I both know me a little bit more because I'm older at 36. And the reason you came in is about people and your
mhm.
family and the people you love and care about. That's what matters.
Yeah,
We're not gonna
100%.
we're not gonna be on our deathbed one day, hopefully in our hundreds, and say, "I wish I would have worked more. I wish I
That's
would
for sure.
with my kids. I wish I would have traveled more. I wish I would have learned how to play guitar, whatever, your joys and, your passions are. So any last minute words of encouragement or just anything else that you want to talk about or say that you don't feel like we covered as far as your journey?
No, like I said, I mean, the results have been far beyond what I even imagined. And the fact that you and Andrea care so much about the patients makes it that much easier to stick with it and be there discussing your health. And, it's it's a lot better environment, I feel like, to do things that make you healthy versus just, going and sitting in the doctor's office and saying, you're not eating right. You need to exercise more. It's
Yeah.
it's really like an understanding and that community that helps you get there. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest reasons that people should consider it, is because that's so much of an advantage to this program as well.
Yeah. Being in what I call our Pura Vida Wellness tribe, you're part of the community, you're a tribe member. And your story and the time that you took today is going to save a life. I promise you. And that we're all here to help and give in whatever way. And your story, I believe wholeheartedly, somebody will hear and it's going to save their life. I just had a diabetic come in today, and the very first thing, she doesn't think it's possible, to reverse diabetes, because most people just don't think it's possible.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm more than happy to do it.
Awesome. All right, Dorin, we'll have a good rest of your evening. And again, thank you. Everyone listening or watching, thank you. And, just remember that the decisions that you make and the actions that you take are a direct reflection of how you're loving yourself, how you're taking care of yourself. And Dorin wanted to be the best for his daughter, but he can't be there for her and love her the way he wants to love her without him being his best self first. And so thank you for putting yourself first so that you could be, can you imagine if you were where you were a couple months ago as far as energy, and what would you have to
Yeah,
give her?
not at all. Nothing. And I'm so thankful that when I come home, that's what I get to do, is spend my evenings with her. And
Yay. And now
yeah.
I'm taking away from that. So I'm going to let you go. Thanks, Dorin. Have an amazing rest of your evening. We'll see you in the clinic soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. CJ.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.